Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is seePyou and here we will talk about the concept design video and the sound design video. The video is going to be discussing specific points, not be a running commentary, so I do advise you go and watch all videos for yourselves first. Right. We are introduced to...
Hi, I'm Sophie and I work here at Coffee Stain as a concept artist.
Who is...
I am the only one with the concept artist title.
But others help out, so that's nice. In the midst of this, we see a glimpse of a tower, which we have seen in the reveal trailer with the note more bling, or rather more bling, which is nice. What will the bling be, I wonder? Sophie goes on to explain what the concept artist is and lets us know that she also does some programming.
But I also do some programming.
Which I guess is nice, Jace needs the help certainly. We get a slight look at her computer monitor, which has the desktop background image of the Klaus post office by Simon Bernanke. Good atmospheric image, shows a bit what her tastes are. Then we get a glimpse of the prototype portable miner, matching very well with what we have seen before from the trailer. Next thing we see is an environment which is completely alien, with no real sense of size here. These things in the foreground could be flowers, but they could just as easily be trees or fungal stalks. But it does look certainly very good and alien and very attractive. We also see some of the creature and plant life in design form, but notice that we have multiple human comparisons in the same shot, so the sizes of these things are going to be massive. We then see her drawing a workstation, again with a human size for comparison. It is here that we first notice that she is using Photoshop and a massive Wacom tablet, which is noise, and also the rest of the Klaus post office background on her left. But more on the console. It seems like choices between a central theme, as in the console alone, the console with a backplate, which might be a light source or a secondary monitor, a console enclosed in the wall section, which offers a recession at waist height, and then the console outside of the wall. We get a short glimpse into a working progress of a lot of things actually. Bottom right is a room she is working on, which we will see shortly in much greater detail. To the left of the screen we can see a foldable stool, and below it something I cannot clearly make out. It's almost as a table, but then it has a trapezoid support frame on its side, so it's confusing to me. The central piece is a structure of sorts that baffles me. It could be just a rough sketch at the time, with not all walls clearly defined and a lot of transparency actually, which leads me to believe that this is a player structure of sorts. Could this be a look at the foundation, the first look at the foundation, with some walls and items inside the walls? Could be. But the most striking thing of all here is the poor goat hanging from its tongue. There is no humanity in this office, I tell you. None. Moving on, next shot has a few images in it. One of them is with the character up to her hips in water, surrounded with orange plants on the banks, and on her desk we see a drawing of a reflection of a structure, very similar to the Eiffel Tower. Do notice the other images on the walls though, and on the frames, and remember the space as we will see it again. Now we get to some exploratory designs of the character on various poses and tools. We can make out the rebar gun, the signal post, or could be the chainsaw, and also a round container, which may be the same on the character above, or the character could just be trying to use the jetpack. But this is a later version of the character, as we will see. We move on to 4 expressions of the healing kit. I believe this is 4 different ideas for it, as in Sophie was asked to make a med kit and possibly make many of them so that the art director can choose between them. Next to each there is a graphical note on how it is to be used. The classic med kit is up left. It is a small box that one can have attached to the front of the harness locking mechanism. The idea of potions comes up on the up right, with standard and multiple medium bottles that the character can open up and drink to heal up. They would be fitted high on the arm and on the straps of the uniform. The healing gun doesn't have a show and tell, but think hyposprays, of which we have them even today. This one is a bit more sci-fi though. I also think that by its geometry it's meant to be rotating, as in it doesn't have 3 ballers as shown, but more are obscured at the moment, possibly 4 in total, so 1 hiding behind them. Then we have the inhalable solution, with an extra note that it is great fit on the mouthpiece of the helmet, and it will be supported on the harness locking mechanism or the strap of the leg. My one big takeaway from this is that stuff we carry on us, like these, will be visible to others, possibly. When I play with my friends, I will be able to see the healing kits on their avatar, or something like it. Intensely looking at this picture also led me to another info which will come up later. Next cut is the back of the character, where we see the number 131. We can notice this again in multiple places, but I have no guess as to what this may be. I think the most practical thing we can consider is that it is a random number for the unit, the suit. The suit is numbered 131, that's all. Also, we get a close-up of the front and see pants on the arm. I wonder if animations will have the character drawing. Now here comes a great shot. Starting small, we see a console as we had seen before, but this is important because of the extra exclusion drawn around the console. I believe this is meant to demonstrate how the console will look outside a wall or up against a wall, as if to say, if this console is in a room, it can be up against a wall like this. Next, we see again the same foundation piece on the top right of the screen. This image is the best bet I have that this is a foundation more than anything else, as it has the yellow and black striation on its edges. And finally, the pièce de résistance, the room. I believe this is a standard living quarters room, which is a module. It comes equipped with a ramp for entry, which is peculiar. Why do we need a ramp? Unless we have carts or other wheeled assisted tools or wheeled robots of small size, the ramp doesn't seem logical here. The room is very comfortable. 2.75 meters high, 4.5 by 5.25 meters of internal usable space. I know. Where do those numbers come from? Well, it's guesstimation. The ladder on the side of the room is responsible for my numbers basically. Taking into account the Guide to Occupational Safety and Health Administration rules for stairways and ladders, we are told that the stairs need to be between 25 and 36 centimeters apart. Taking an average of that and counting the steps, we come up to these sizes. They fit, actually. Considering the screens on the side, which I can guess are monitoring screens for calendars or base status or any important updates and such, their center stands at 175 centimeters high, which is a very comfortable and used actually space in many places I have seen. Yes, once I took that measurement and then I started noticing it around me, and I have seen this at my workplace, at bus stations, coffee shops and more. Also, I have accounted for the perspective of the room, as the lines going across it on the top and the lines of the room on the bottom are not parallel, so corrections were made to all calculations. This is a very comfortable and efficient room with loads of storage space, racks, closet, etc. I can only guess that the bed is on the side that is currently hidden from us. We then see an iteration of the living quarters from the start, rough sketching with details added in. In this shot we see notes in Swedish for tool, blouse and glove, miner, concept of a miner, which I think will fit on the wall like this with the other drawings Sophie has made before, boots and helmets. The panel above the bed is identical to the panels from the room we had seen before, although this room is curved, so it's not the same room, but it suggests a link in construction, a modular construction. Design once, use a lot. Finally, in the last frames, we get a glimpse of the comparison of the human inside this space. Let's do some math again. Typical human height equals to 1.75 meters. Count the height of the human, get something, anything, we don't care what, whatever it is. Now count the total height, from the bottom of where you counted to the very top of the image. You now have 175 times the biggest measurement you made, divided by the measurement of the human you made. That equals 285. You know what? That's damn close to 275 for the room we calculated before, so the scale has been set in the design of the game, so much so that the artists are hitting this scale pretty well. Satisfactory will be a roomy game for our spaces. Moving on, remember where I told you to keep your perspective of Sophie's office in mind? The next shot is the reason why, this one. The same characters over the doorway, the same picture on the ledge with a character in a river, only now we have a different building drawing there. Enter annoying grey sweater person to ruin the shot, but not quite. After all, we have technology. Still, even with emerging sides lost from the panning and coverage, we get this. And this is not enough to tell us what this thing is. Striation on the slabs on top, but are they even slabs? Out of the middle is an antenna, or chimneys, and what's the central tubes with a cover on top of them? This is one weird building, one that only have support for its frame on one side as well with that big X, making it all the more weird and mysterious. Why not have both sides supported? Why is the one place open and the other isn't? Why do these things look like trains? It's too weird to be trains though, so it's not. I don't know. I have no idea what this thing is. We next meet two of the game's other characters, Katerina Parks and Steve, her assistants, who doesn't even qualify for a last name. There is not much here, detail-wise for the game, aside from one thing. Why do their badges say SLD? What does SLD stand for? It's not a Fix-It badge. But why? They are working for Fix-It. And the only thing coming close as a mention of it is Save the Day program, which is in the introduction by Katerina on the website. But that would be STD and not SLD. So again, what does SLD mean? Following that, we have a complete and utter rouse, a lie, a show, a sham, for which Jace should be ashamed, dragging into this web of lies poor Sophie.
Did you draw that big thing in the sky at the top of the space elevator?
I did. It's a food court.
Nope, this is not a food court. This is a lie, and Sophie has been drafted to make this drawing from scratch in a few minutes, because she is able, just to throw us off. I know this is a spaceship construction site and not a food court. Moving on. The old design of the character is where things start to get very interesting again. Some things are there even in this early stage, like the work overalls, the boots, the straps on the top body and the leg strap. Some details are different as well, like helmets, gloves, and so on. We are shown a multicolor representation of the same model, as Sophie mentions that the player might be allowed to choose their own color. But then we get to see them up close, in contrast to the current model. Observation 1. The 131 is still here, so it was included in the early designs, so maybe it's not as random as we thought. Observation 2. The hands and pockets have a weird panel of lights. Where in the old model the panels are pretty much identical wherever they are and missing from the left hand, the current model, the latest model, have different ones on the gloves and the pockets. The pockets are even different from each other, and both gloves have this now. So, what is it? I spent some time on this and went back and forth on many videos trying to find other references to it, but in the end I could just not understand what it was. However, I was soon to make a huge discovery. Further on, and we found out how the character might also have looked in various different suits of uniforms. Sophie explains that they were going for a mainstream character.
So we tried like making this like, what do you call it, like mainstream kind of game character.
Okay, good, but... wow, my god, what is that? A tool, like a drill, plugging into a socket on the hand. Remember that this is early development.
This one was kind of the beginning of the character we have right now.
So my mind is racing at this time and I'm thinking, so you started with the idea that tools will plug into the suit, and that is why the initial final model has identical sockets because you have one socket. But then as you progress, and also while you attach more and more things to the suit to draw power from and or communicate with the UI on the helmet's augmented reality vision, you made different sockets. This is it! These things are the sockets and the ports for the various tools one can attach to the character. Oh, I am well pleased with this discovery. I do hope it is correct though, but yeah, this has me all tingling. The rest of the video is about her art, which she uploads to Instagram, and I do suggest you go visit. She is really a very talented artist. In fact, only supported by her answer to
And what hardware do you use?
Excuse me?
What kind of hardware?
which is simply and expectedly from anyone who knows anyone artistic.
A computer?
So, that's all about production design. Moving on then to the sound design. We meet Joel, and he explains exactly what good design is, and as important as the concept art is, so is sound design. To use his words,
good sound design is, it sells you the world, it sells you the object that you're looking at, but it doesn't annoy you.
we then also get to hear some of the sounds, which are basically from the reveal trailer but without the music and now with the sound effects included. Sparks,
Like when we get a new
loading,
equipment,
whooshing,
I try
chainsaw starting.
to make the sound for it, we get a new building.
He also explains that without sound we are lacking feedback from our world and thus it can feel empty, in fact only supported by this segment of the miner. Same for the ambient sounds, which are present in the video.
That has to be filled with a lot of different ambient sounds for a lot of different...
Helping him in this were the creators of Witcher 3, which gave him some good ideas on how to make large space ambient sounds, and that it is important that the ambient sounds are alien. This will add to the spookiness of the place for sure, and I love it. We then see him working on the engine, with what I believe can either be the Unreal Engine itself or WISE, which is spelled W-W-I-S-E. Joel then specifies that for the factories themselves he tries to find out what the building does, so that he can make a sound for it. It is again from the reveal trailer when we pass through a constructor making iron rods from iron bars.
what is being processed, what is being made, trying to find...
However, we then have a chance to really listen to the portable miner, and it is a treat.
So for a miner, for instance, I would try to listen to how a miner would sound in real life.
As we move on to the animation and the sound, we are hearing the steps and ambient sounds of the Lizard Doggo video with promptly impactful steps.
Animation is very important for sound design.
We are also treated to a look of his pure audio tools, like the isotope, where the clearing of the sound has a weird optical effect sort of thingy. Yeah, that. He also seems to help with programming, which I guess he might have to. I mean, it's kind of weird to me, but sure, I guess they all need to help around a bit if they can, and they seem to have lucked out and all of them can. Which is awesome, incredible, but awesome, why not? Finally, we see that his other various tools are, such as Insight and Reaper. Last thing of note is the scanning sound.
My favorite thing that I've designed, probably the scanning sound effect. I did that for our internal alpha test.
Which is good, distinct, nice to hear, full. Aside that, there is not much else to discuss about sound. We do have an insight into the man, who he is, and how he is anxious about the game, which helps us remember that these are people, not heartless computers or massive faceless corporations. However, here is where I am ambivalent. I'm massively aware that I am just a hobbyist. This is not my job, this is just my passion, and I'm here commenting on the work of people that do this for a living, so I try to weigh my words carefully. I fully understand that the format of these two videos we have talked about is the same, but that is exactly why it might not have been appropriate. Sophie is a concept artist, and her content is visual. We can see her work, and we get so much out of her work, feel we see something happening. Remember this video?
When I've done that, I'm start to sketch kind of where we want to go.
Or this?
My favorite thing that I made in Satisfactory is...
Out of those, we get so much exactly because the content is visual. Joel's subject is auditory, and while we hear a lot of new sounds and they are awesome, the chance to really showcase his work is missed. His work is not solely the end sound, his work is the journey towards the sound. With Sophie, we see the old character, the intermediate character, and the finished project. The old room, or the starting room, or a starting room, and the intermediate and the stolen shot here and there, and the work in progress. The history and progression of her work is there for all to see and maybe even understand. That is what is missing from the old videos. Remember the lightsaber sound? Would you want a sound design video on a guy who made it and then showed you the finished sound? Or would you want this?
At that time I was still a graduate student at USC. We had a projection booth with some very, very old simplex projectors in them. When they just sat there and idled, made a wonderful humming sound. And it was kind of that inspiration. I went and recorded that sound. What was missing was the scintillating element. And that I found one day by accident. I was carrying a microphone across the room, passed by a television set which was on the floor. The microphone passed right behind the picture tube, and a signal was induced into its sound reproducing mechanism. And then took another microphone and waved it around in the air next to that speaker so that it would come close to the speaker and go away. You could whip it by. And what happens when you do that by recording with a moving microphone is you get a Doppler shift, you get a pitch shift in the sound, and therefore you can produce a very authentic facsimile of a moving sound.
The sound designer is about designing the sound, how the sound was chosen, what its parts were, funny or obscure anecdotes about the selection or the creation process. This is what sound design videos should be, in my humble opinion. I love the details we saw. I loved to hear the sounds we did, and I appreciate the humanizing moment of his blushing. But we only saw some of the result of his work, and not his work process. I so want to see this in a future video. And with this, I will bid you adieu, and keep safe.